Welcome to the iATAC Soccer Podcast, an educational resource for parents and players focused on soccer development.
We sit down with top players, coaches, and industry experts to explore their journey to greatness in the game. Our mission is to provide insights and guidance to take players and coaches to the next level. I'm Michael Wright.
And I'm Chris Martinez. Together we have a combined 50-plus years of coaching, training, and playing experience, spanning from youth soccer to the professional level.
Today we're joined by Cori Dyke, a standout defender for the Orlando Pride and one of the NWSL's rising soccer stars.
From her early days in Colorado's youth soccer academies to competing on numerous youth national teams, Cori's journey has been defined by hard work and a relentless drive to succeed.
At Penn State, she became the program's all-time appearance leader and was named the 2023 Big Ten Defender of the Year. Drafted by Orlando in 2024, she wasted no time making an impact, helping the team capture both the NWSL Shield and Championship in her rookie season.
In this episode, we'll dive into her path to the pros, her approach to the game, and what's next as she continues to elevate her career. Stay with us. This is a conversation you won't want to miss. All right. Cori, well, thank you for joining us today. Super excited to have you on board with us and to get all these amazing insights from you and your experience as a player. And I think just right out of the gate, we're going to jump right to it. We're going to talk about your journey in soccer, where it started for you, how old were you when you started to play, different clubs you played on, so on and so forth. So if you can touch on those things to get us going, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Well, first off, super excited to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. Wow. I mean, it really has been a journey. I started playing from the moment I could walk, really, from when I could touch a ball. So probably around 4 years old, growing up in Fort Collins, Colorado. And then I moved to Denver, Colorado, when I started to, I think, get a little more serious about soccer. I think Mike jokes about the phone call that he got from my mom about trying to find the right team that suited me. So I really initially have to shout out her for all the work that she did and invested from such a young age for me. And I started off playing at Real for you guys, which was awesome. I really think that foundation played a really huge role in my career, honestly, just from a technical standpoint. I feel like I learned a lot, grew a lot. And then as I got older, I moved to Rush. That's where my sister was playing. And I felt like I could grow even further technically in that environment. And I attribute so much of my career to those coaches there as well. Mike Paserchio, Eric Boucher, Peter May, they were so great. And I actually followed Peter May to Rapids for my last year of club. So had an incredible club experience. Can't say enough great things about the youth environment that we have in Colorado.
That's great.
So coupled with that, I know, Cori, that you continue to develop and flourish and had some opportunities along the way to get introduced to the youth national team programs. Can you tell us more about that, what that looked like, what that entailed?
Yeah, I was really blessed to have those opportunities from a young age, starting at U14 all the way up to currently with the U23s and now full team, because that's technically my age group now, which is crazy. But I think it started with, we had training centers back then where we would have U.S. coaches come in and get together a group of players that were performing well with their clubs, and they could get a closer look at those players for talent identification. And then when we were playing ECNL, we would go to showcases, and there would be U.S. soccer scouts there as well, just kind of identifying top talent. So kind of through those two avenues, I was able to get invited into camp, and then based off my performance at those U.S. soccer camps, I would get invited back. And I met a lot of amazing players through that avenue, grew a lot as a player as well, had some really cool experiences traveling overseas as well with those teams.
Yeah, Cori, I want to jump back a little bit from the U.S. national team. I just want players out there to understand that, I mean, to reach that level is amazing, but there is a lot of work that you put into your technical side of the game. Talk about how you got so comfortable with the ball. I had a chance to coach you when you're, like you said, when you were young, you moved from Fort Collins, your mom called me, said, we're looking for a team, all that stuff. And I knew right away you love to have the ball, right? But you don't snap your finger and all of a sudden your feet are just like our magic feet, right? Explain a little bit about what you did at younger ages to really try and master the ball. What was it like in your house? What was it like around your garage door or wherever you spent time trying to master the ball, so people get a sense of the comfort? I mean, if you watch Cori play, she loves the ball at her feet and get out of a lot of trouble. And I'm telling you, she was Defender of the Year. We'll get to this, but I coached her, and she was a very offensive player. And so I saw the comfort that you had. I want the young female players to understand out there what it looks like. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think from a young age, like the biggest thing was just reps, like the repetitions, the time on the ball, like getting on the ball as much as you possibly can.
How did you do it?
And
How
yeah,
did you do it? What were the
around
reps looking like? How did you do it?
around the house, like
Yeah.
I mean, I had my sister, and like I said that to you guys before. I attribute so much of my success to her
Okay.
because I mean, she was the world's best training partner, and we would play together all the time, front yard, backyard, in our basement. We used to do 1v1s against each other all the time.
Yeah.
We had that banned for a while because we got too competitive. Our
Nice.
parents were like, you can't do
Love
that
it.
anymore because you're getting in
Breaking
fights.
items.
Yeah. And then I think we also did a lot of soccer camps growing up, whether it was the foot ability camps, the core soccer camps. Like I think we did as many of those as we could. And they focused so heavily on foot skills. I think those were a huge part for us as well. From those really younger ages, just the more we could get on the ball and practice those things, like that's the prime time to learn and to
Yeah,
set that
but
foundation.
I wanna repping is one thing, but taking those reps into a competitive sister versus sister, one-on-one battle, get knocked down, maybe even go upstairs and cry, all of that is the mix, right? It's the beautiful mix that I really want young players to understand, is that it's doing the reps right, so you're not doing the reps wrong, okay? And then it's doing it in a competitive format where you're going to fail a lot, but then you learn from all those mistakes, and then all of a sudden you just burn your sister. And you're like, I got it, man. I got it. I understand this, right? Is that fair?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. Yeah. And I think both are important. You need to test yourself in those challenging environments, and then that's when you can correct, but also in an environment where it's maybe safer to fail when you're learning those things as well. You kind of need both when you're building those skills.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So as far as a player, you really touched on the technical side there and kind of how your development started. There's other super important parts of the game, other pillars, so to speak. The tactical, you have the physical side of the game, you have the psychological. For you, in your development, how did you tap into these other areas, and what were some of the things that you did to bring these areas out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, the technical foundation through the younger years was huge. That was definitely the most important thing. And then as you get older, it becomes more heavily tactical, physical, psychological, even. I think my progression was through the later years of club was when the tactics started to get heavier, especially with the national team as well. And then I think the jump from club to college was a big tactical jump. That would probably be the biggest thing that I would say. And so I think watching film was a big part of that, and having those discussions with your coaches. And then on the physical side, transitioning to college as well. I think my last 2 years of high school, I started to take fitness and lifting really seriously. And then that just kicked into high gear going into college.
So I want to touch more on this mindset psychological side of things, you know, as any player starts making jumps from, let's say, rec to junior academy to academy, there's these new elements of competition. There's better players. You know, being around you, I always felt like you had this mindset that was very competitive. Like, I enjoy the competition, but you also were open to, like, what do I need to do to get better? And you weren't
Hmm.
afraid of failing. And
Hmm.
so this open mindset that everyone talks about, growth mindset, talk a little bit about how it was in your head, like how you dealt with these progressions you just mentioned, and how
Hmm.
you could sit back and say, okay, it's okay if I wasn't the best player today, but I'm walking away from this a better player, right?
Yeah.
So talk about
Um,
that.
I mean, I think I can credit my supportive environment through those stages a ton. Like, obviously, that's not something I did entirely on my own, like keeping a good head on my shoulders. Like, I had my family supporting me, my coaches who helped me through that, incredible teammates
Hmm.
that were always picking me up when I got knocked down, encouraging me, holding me accountable. So that environment and all the teams that I played on played a huge role in that. But I think also, like, it starts with that, like, inner belief.
Okay.
Like, I knew I had confidence in myself and I knew where I wanted to go with clear goal setting, like what I wanted to do with my career. And I knew that to get there, you were going to have to fail a lot and you were going to have to accept that there were things that you needed to get better at. No one usually likes to do those things more, the things you're not good at, because it's frustrating, especially in the earlier years, but just like honing in on that more and just trusting that it's going to pay off and just continuing to have that dialogue with your coach too, like that support that, like, hey, I know you're frustrated, I know it might not be going the way you want right now, but if we keep doing this, like, you're going to get better and then you're going to pay dividends in the future.
Hmm. So basically, we're hearing about your game and development in all these different areas. So over the course of time, how did you find out about or familiarize yourself like with what the highest standard is out there? Like you feel like you're progressing, you're becoming a good player, but what did you have to compare it to? Because oftentimes players are caught up in their own existing environment, but they truly don't
Hmm.
know what else exists
Yeah.
out there.
And so when you said that, you may think you've reached your peak. I don't need to get any better. But Chris, you're asking the question, there is always something better out there. How did you know what it was to go find that? That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really good question. I think I was able to be put in environments that tested me in that way, where
Hmm.
I was almost forced to level up.
Hmm.
You know, starting with, I was playing competitively on the ECNL team, my age group, but then I would get pulled up to play with my sister's team, who was an older team.
Hmm.
And I think that was a first step to test myself. Okay, I'm
Sure.
doing really well against, my peers. How do I do against older girls?
Hmm.
What does that look like? And then I get invited to US national team camp. Okay, now I know I'm one of the best on my team. How do I stack up against some of the other best players in the country at my age? And I feel like in each environment that I went into, like, you kind of test yourself against them and you're forced to level up, or not,
Hmm.
honestly. And I think through each of those stages, it's just having that open mindset and just believing in yourself,
Hmm.
like having confidence in your abilities to do that.
What was your first experience going into that very first U.S. national team camp that you hadn't been exposed to previously? What was your mentality going in there, mindset? What did you feel? This is very interesting for us.
The first one, I was so nervous. Like, I can't even sugarcoat that. Like, I was so nervous.
Right.
Hmm.
Um, and I was 14, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I think I cried to my mom before because I was so
Yeah,
stressed out.
sure.
Um, and to be honest, naturally, I don't think I performed that well at that first one.
Hmm.
And then I didn't get invited back to the next one, and I was devastated. And then I actually didn't get invited back until my U16 year, and I think a lot of growth happened in that time
I was going to say
frame.
that
Met,
devastation
yeah,
probably led to a lot of refocus and really fine tuning
For
those
sure.
areas because you had a little taste and you saw what that level, what it looked like, and took away
Yeah,
what you had to improve on. So I'm sure.
exactly. Yeah, so a lot of hard work during that gap, on honing my craft, but even the mental side for sure. So I think by the time I got invited back, I had more confidence. I knew what I was getting myself into and was able to perform better and stay more consistent through the national team system
Yeah,
from there on out.
there's a lot of parents that'll be listening to this and they're going to say, "Well, this is great. Cori Dyke gets to figure this out by going to the U.S. national team camp, but my kid isn't going to be invited. Probably never be invited. But I want to figure that out." Also, what I really think you're saying is it's experiences. Like,
Mhm,
if there's an ability to have an experience at a higher level and you're ready for it, technically, like you've really honed your skill, you love the ball. Now it's like, okay, it's going to get faster, it's going to get stronger, you know, everything's going to speed up, but your technique is there. So you can start to
mhm,
handle maybe the speed and you can start to handle some of the thought process around the tactics, right? And so
mhm,
you're blending those things. So I think the advice that I could I could shout out to the parents is really drill the technical so well that when you get put into these environments, that's not going to break down. And what you have
mhm,
to then really kind of speed up is your thought process, how quickly you do things, your first touch. But you've got all those things that can actually bring success, right? Because
mhm,
you've worked so hard on that first phase of the technical side, right? But it's an
for sure.
experience. Like you just spoke about an experience that showed you what that next level looked like. And for our parents out there or kids looking, if you get a chance to try and play up somewhere and you're ready, go for it, right?
Yeah, for sure, and to add to that, it can be as simple as that no matter your situation. I know we're talking about my US national team
Yeah, for
experience,
sure.
but to your point, it can be, you're in your youth team environment and you are challenging yourself to play with an older team
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it doesn't go well the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it didn't go well for me the first time around. It
Mm-hmm.
can't.
Right.
Like don't be disheartened by that,
Mm-hmm.
like don't give up, like
Mm-hmm.
learn from it and then continue to work on the things that didn't go so well
Yeah.
and then you'll be better for the next time.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question about, we're talking about getting better at these new levels, right? Let's
Mhm.
say that experience doesn't come your way. I mean, I know it did, but some other kids out there, it doesn't come that way. So they're really stuck now just trying to get to the highest level they can in their own team environment. Could you give some advice to some of the younger players about how to approach practice and say, I want
Mm.
to be the best version of myself today at practice? And if I can continue to put practice after practice after practice together with the best version of myself, then I can get better. So I
100%.
know you actually do that because I know your mentality. I've coached you enough that I know you go to a practice to say I'm getting better every day. So
Mhm.
walk through, I guess maybe in your mind, a routine that you could share with people to say, this is how I deliver the best version of myself at a practice. Let's just stay with practicing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't talk enough about how important your mindset is for training. I really think for me, like that was the biggest thing that got me to where I am.
Okay.
Um, I think, like you talked about, like it's at the end of the day, it's you versus you at the training field. And you have a choice when you show up if you're gonna get something out of it or not.
Mm.
And I think going into it with intention is the biggest thing.
Okay.
So I think showing up with maybe some goals in mind of maybe something you've been wanting to work on,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a type of pass, like an instep pass or a bent ball or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try this at least X many times during the session. And then that's something that you can continue to hone while you're doing it. And then I think reflection after training is important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Going back through it and, you know, going over 3 things you did well,
Mm-hmm.
2 things that you could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
I always think it's important to way heavier on the good stuff
Hmm.
because we tend to pick out the negatives really easily. But
Right.
I think focusing on the things you did really well as well, and then I would just say like falling in love with that process
Oh,
because it's hard.
that's huge.
It's
That's
not
great.
pretty. Yeah, it's not pretty, but you know when you see it pay off, because it does. You put the work in, it will pay off. Like that is there's nothing more satisfying. So I would just say trust in that.
Okay. Can I pick on a word you said, this reflection at the end of practice? I've been around a lot of players that I've coached, and they've said that reflection component. But I want to
Hmm.
ask you a question. I've heard it said a couple other ways to me, and I've passed it on to some of the players I've coached. That reflection process needs to happen inside the practice as well. In other
Hmm.
words, what's happening the first 5 to 10 minutes of your practice? Like, ask yourself a basic question: what am I doing well right now? And what could I be doing better? And then continue to do those things well. And then things you might be struggling, can I clean it up? I'm sure you probably self correct and self reflect while you're in the middle of that practice.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's really important. You still do that for sure. I think starting in warm up, I try to take like a I don't even know what word I'm looking for, but an assessment maybe of where my
Okay.
head is at.
Hmm.
Um,
You probably,
and
you
kind of
probably,
check
you
in that
probably,
way.
yeah, you probably look at your feet too, your touch, your mind, all
Yep.
that stuff, right?
Yep. Our
Yeah.
first passing drill, you know, like how is that going? You know, am I locked in? You know, is it clean right now? What do I need to do better there? And then each drill, you're always constantly reevaluating. You know, if I get beat once, then I'm like, okay, like I know what I did wrong. I stepped too soon. I'm not getting beat the next time. So it's just a constant process.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think this is super valuable for a younger player, especially. What did you do? You hear, like for me as a coach, when I'm working with younger players, if a mistake happens, I tell the player, it's okay, delete, reset,
Hmm.
and get refocused and move on. What mechanisms or what approach did you take in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to just forget about it. Like it's
Hmm.
human nature, I think, to, you know, not want to mess up. And, you know,
Right.
that weighs heavily on us. And that's something I've struggled with for sure. And we can get into the mental side of that maybe in a little bit. But I think one thing that has helped me a lot that coaches used to tell me was just focus on your next action.
Hmm.
Right.
Like you can't
Past is the
change what
past.
happened before. Yeah, the
Correct.
past is the past, but you can control like the very next thing you do. Like don't let one mistake turn into two. I think is something I've tried to like stick to. You know, like okay, you just messed up, you just gave the ball away. That's fine. Go win it back. Or when you get the ball again, just complete your first pass.
Hmm.
Like and then you start to rebuild confidence from there.
And
Hmm.
it's amazing, like the mindset piece, especially with younger players, and you
Hmm.
see it all the time. If a player starts the game with a poor pass or gives the ball
Mhm.
away, gets dispossessed, and it happens again, then you see kind of the
Mhm.
snowball effect.
Yep.
However, on the opposite side of the spectrum, first action is positive, complete the pass, beat a player on the dribble.
Hmm.
You see that confidence brimming.
Hmm.
So it's just, the
Mhm.
mind controlling the body. There's just a direct correlation there.
Yeah. And Corey,
For sure.
I want to go back to what you said about, hey, I made a mistake. It's okay. I can control the next movement forward, do something in a positive aspect. I want to go into that a little bit more for younger players because I think there's more here to unpack a little bit. So I want to double click on this. Okay. So
All right.
so there's an issue. You have a bad pass. You have this thing in your head called the self critic is going, oh my gosh, you just gave it away. It's being really hard on you, but you've been taught move on to the next thing. Okay.
Mhm.
However, I think moving on to the next thing sounds really good, but I think players should have a plan on what it looks like to move on to the next thing. In other words, you said connect your next pass. That's part of a plan. Like
Mhm.
you knew that to reset myself, I need to do something that's positive. So let's keep the game as simple as I can. And let's just do the most simple thing I can is receive a ball,
Yeah.
play a ball to
Yep.
reset myself. So this is a plan and you have in your head. I don't want
Hmm.
to give it away again, and I want to connect my next pass. However, to do that, maybe what was causing your problem was that you weren't thinking fast enough or had a plan in your head before you got the ball where you wanted to pass the ball next, right? Or
Hmm.
you weren't spatially moving away from defenders quick enough to give yourself enough time to receive a ball and play a ball. So there's a lot going on that could have caused that first problem. And you know as a
Hmm.
player that, hey, I can make this a lot better if I move better. I can make my
Hmm.
next plan a lot better if I'm thinking ahead before I receive the ball and I know where my options are, or I'm looking over my shoulder to know where defenders are. And so you know all these things now, but I think the younger players are thinking, okay, I'll just connect my next pass. Well, it may be a lot more to it than that. You may need to get into open space quicker. You need to take looks over your shoulder to know where the defense is before you get the ball. You need to know where your options are before you receive the ball. And because you did all that, now you connect your next pass. So in other words, there
For
was a
sure.
plan going on. And walk through that. You do that and just tell what's your plan. It's like it's not as simple as connect your next pass. You're thinking about a lot of other things.
For sure. And I think, it's really the things that you touched on. You have to set yourself up for success,
Yep.
and in order to do that, you need to, do all of those things. You need to drop off to give yourself enough space. You need to check your shoulders. That was something that was drilled into me
Yeah. Yep.
in my younger years, for sure. I can really shout out Eric Boucher for that. I think that habit really formed under him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the biggest thing that you can do off the ball to give yourself confidence on the ball
Mm-hmm.
when you receive it. Because you can feel the pressure sometimes when you get the ball and you don't know what's going on. You didn't take your
Right.
looks. Like, you don't know
Right.
where the pressure's coming from. You don't know where your options are. And that can lead to, more turnovers. But I think if you are scanning and you have that awareness beforehand, then by the time you get the ball, you know what you're going to do with it. You can have confidence in that and execute.
Great.
Something I want to bring up as well, Corey, is the communication piece. At lower levels, oftentimes there's not much talking, if any. But as you continue to develop and play at higher levels, like if you were to go out and attend a professional training session, you just hear voices and talking and communication. It's such a big, vital, important part of the game. What can you tell me about as when's the first time as a player that you saw the value and the importance of communicating?
Ooh, it's a really good question because, yeah, I mean, especially now, like, it is huge. Like, we couldn't really do anything
Right.
without it. Um, I think through the higher levels of club, as everything starts to get a little more organized, as a team, is when it becomes important. You're starting to dip into tactics. Your team's starting to press a certain way, defend a certain way. That's when that communication becomes really important. And you need to give info to the players to your left and to your right, constantly. I think from the younger ages, though, like, the communication can be as simple as encouragement
There you go.
to
That's
one
what, yep,
another. Like,
absolutely.
that's a huge thing. And you don't lose that. Like, that's important as well through every level. But I think that is huge for younger players. Like, the encouragement from your teammates, from your peers, like, that keeps the joy in the game. And I think, yeah, as you get older, the communication can take on a little more instruction, constructive criticism, all of that. But the encouragement is a vital piece as well.
Can I take us out of, let's say, the junior academy? You're an advanced academy player now. Like you said, you're in the U.S. national pool, playing in some games actually, and then there's this recruiting process. Okay, I want to touch on that a little bit. Um, Talk about your recruiting process. Obviously, I think your path is a little bit easier because you're on the U.S. national team. But give advice to, like, even your friends or just you've been around the recruiting process. What was it like for you? And how do players get recognized? Like, how do you get the attention of these schools, or how did some of the players you play with get attention? I think it's really big for these younger players to know that this is what you saw and this is what happened to you? Maybe a little bit of that journey for you.
For sure. I mean, for me, I think because I was on an ECNL team, going to those showcases was a huge thing.
Okay.
There were so many college scouts in that environment, and I think, performing well on that stage would lead coaches to reach out to you. So that's, I think, the avenue that I utilize best. But if someone's on a team where maybe they aren't getting that exposure, I think camps are a great way to go with
Okay.
the colleges that you're interested in.
Okay.
I know people where that has been like a great avenue as well.
Great.
Like going to, let's say, the Penn State soccer camp, the
Okay.
Florida State soccer camp. That's something you can do as well to get exposure. And then obviously performing well in that environment can lead to any possibility.
That's great. No,
But I also think last thing I'll say about that is when you are going through that process, stay open-minded and really think about where you're going to develop and what style best suits you. I think
So,
those things are really important.
that's from a soccer standpoint. What can you tell me about? I mean, basically, when you're looking at schools, it's the region. What's the weather
hmm
like? What's the climate? Is it urban, suburban? Is it in a big city? Is it remote? Right?
hmm
Because obviously soccer's a big piece, but you're there to go to school as well. Are you going to be comfortable in that particular environment where that school resides? What can you tell me about that as far as obviously you chose Penn State? What
hmm
type of factor did that play into your decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge thing. Like at the end of the day, like you're going to school there for 4 years. It's your life. Like you want to enjoy it
Yeah.
outside of soccer as well. So,
Right.
it's
I
your
think,
life.
yeah, like, there's everything and you got to take all of that into consideration. And
Mm-hmm.
I definitely did in my process as well. I'm not really a city girl, so that was easy for me.
Hmm.
But I think during your time in college, like there's so much holistic development that occurs. You grow so much as an individual off the field, on the field. And I think it's really important to look at the environment that you're putting yourself in. So for sure, consider those things. Consider how far it is you're going, what the weather is like, what region you're in, what the coaching staff is like, everything. Um, I know the coaching staff for me was a big one, not necessarily just in regards to the on-field stuff, but like how they treat their players as people, not just as athletes, was a big thing as well.
I'm sure facilities mattered.
They do. I might be the wrong person to ask for this, honestly, because it was pretty low on my list.
Really? Okay.
The
I like that.
Yeah, you don't go to Penn State for the facilities,
Okay.
not the soccer team, at least when I was there. We
And
didn't
you're
have
talking more about where you might play your games because I'm sure Penn State has an enormous weight room.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And Jeffrey Field, the field is the best.
Okay.
But as far as the locker room and that stuff, we didn't have the cool new locker room or all the
Exterior.
shiny new stuff.
Okay.
Right.
We were a very blue collar team in a blue collar environment, and I loved that. Like,
Perfect.
yeah, the cool stuff would have been great, and now they're getting a brand new facility, which I'm so happy for. Um, but I think for me, like, yeah, that would have been cool, but that wasn't a deal breaker.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing for me was the environment. Am I going to grow? Am I going to learn under these coaches and in this place? Do I feel at home here? And at the end of the day, like that was Penn State for me.
So
But
Cori,
that can look different for other people.
just for the listeners, I don't even know this. I have no idea what what the answer of this question is gonna be. I have no clue. But I imagine you must have had a lot of offers to go play college soccer. Am I right?
Yes.
And so you could have picked the shiny nugget.
hmm
So you had like a lot of the big schools coming after you. And so you
hmm
chose that, and it was your style, like you said.
hmm
It's what you loved, and it's the coaches. And the coaches say this too. It's like they want to pick players that actually want that environment too. It's like it's a
Wanna be
culture
there.
fit, man.
Sure, yeah.
It's a culture fit.
Yep,
So great.
100%.
Can we stay on the Penn State thing real quick,
Yeah, I was
Chris?
gonna say I wanna hear more about the
Yeah.
college experience for
Yes,
sure.
I wanna talk. Just give advice to the younger players that are looking to go to college. What did that jump look like going from, let's say, academy to college soccer? Let's jump into those pillars again.
hmm
The technical side of it. The jump up there. Obviously everybody's better. Tactics. The physical weight room that we mentioned earlier. What you have to do there, and then just the demand on the mindset.
For sure. I mean, it's a huge jump in that regard. Physical for sure. Like I ran so much that summer leading into my freshman year, more than I ever had.
What do you mean you
Yeah.
ran? You were running a lot. Give us give us like some ideas. Give us some fun stories. Like, what do you mean?
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, Penn State does
I
fitness
got the packet.
maybe more extreme than maybe some others, but I
Okay.
mean, any elite college program is gonna have a pretty intense fitness regimen coming in the summer.
Okay. So you did the
Um,
beep test and a lot of other
yes.
things.
Oh yeah, all that fun stuff. No, I mean, I ran a lot on my own before I showed up to Penn State because
Mm-hmm.
obviously I wanted to put myself in the best position to
Right.
be successful.
Yeah.
But we went in early, the freshmen, so we got there end of June. Preseason started in August,
Okay.
and we would do fitness pretty much every morning at 7 a.m. with
Mhm.
our strength coach. And it was not fun, but very rewarding because then by the time season rolled around, we were fit and we could play to the best of our ability for 90 minutes.
Okay.
And I just think the faster pace of the game, that higher physical demand, with college, like you needed to do that in order to utilize all the technical
Did you ever
skills
track your
that you
run?
built.
Did you ever track your running metrics? Like how many miles you were covering in a game?
Yeah, I mean, we do it now still as
What
well.
are you running?
I think we average like 11K
11K.
in a game. Yeah,
That's a lot of running.
yeah.
That is a lot of running. I don't know
So
if I could even run a tenth. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a lot. That's awesome. And that 11K came out of the pro metrics, or is that back when you were in this as a central player?
Yeah, I mean, that's now, and it's honestly pretty similar,
Really?
in college, I think maybe slightly less,
That is a
but
lot.
don't quote me because I don't know that for a fact, but
Okay.
yeah,
I
it's
wanna
it's a
stay
lot.
on this physical topic in college. There's some programs that, as the season progresses and is going on, they continue to implement a real heavy physical side of the game. It might tweak a bit
hmm
here and there. There's other programs that like to utilize the ball to get their
hmm
fitness. What was it like at Penn State? What was the approach there?
I mean, it was both. We would, through the season, for the players that didn't play significant minutes or didn't play in the game, we would have, like, we would call them top up sessions the
Yep.
next day. Um, and in those, they tried as much as possible to make it just fitness with the ball, with in terms of a super competitive session, because
Right.
I think that's more fun for
Sure.
people than just get on the line,
Yep.
you know. No, there is a
Go.
time and a place for that. But lots of 5v5, 2v2s, like transition drills, like those kind of drills where it's super fast paced, high intensity, but you're still getting a lot out of it on the soccer side as well.
So if you're gonna do that much load, right? Talk about your nutrition and recovery. So there is no
Yeah.
way you can run every morning at 7 a.m. if you aren't taking care of your body. So I'm sure from when you're in the academy, you didn't learn you didn't learn a lot about that. You kind of just chocolate milk, to do an ice bath every once in
hmm
a while, and
Yeah.
by the way, it's getting actually a lot more advanced down at the academy levels regarding this topic. However, when you're coming out, it wasn't as much as Penn State does. Talk about
Yeah.
that transition of recovery and nutrition and taking care of your body.
Yeah. I mean, it's half the battle, honestly.
Wow.
Because you can't perform if you're not recovered and have the energy to compete at your best.
Mhm.
It's all about setting yourself up for success
Mhm. How
and
do you do that? Talk
doing that.
yeah, let's get some protocols. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, fueling your body is the most important thing. And I think, especially, I can speak for female athletes because I do think this is more specific to women.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's hard,
Mhm.
having to eat enough for what you're doing, and having that kind of complicated relationship with food. I know high school girls maybe like, you're worried about your figure or you're worried about, maybe girls worry about that stuff more and
Mhm.
that's real. But I think it is so important to make sure that you are eating enough to compensate for what you are burning. And that's eating a lot of carbs. We
Mhm.
carb load all the time, and refueling with a lot of protein because when you're breaking your muscles down like that on a consistent basis, you need to replenish it, in order to continue to get stronger and, keep your muscles growing. And I think hydrating too is huge, especially depending on the environment that you're in. I'm in Florida currently, very hot, very humid. Penn State would get very humid in the summer as well, and just drinking enough water that you're, replenishing your muscles in that way as well. And just being really diligent with that. It's another thing that you need to be really intentional about.
Mhm. So, all super valuable
What
information,
about
man.
you didn't touch on sleep? Tell me about sleep. What are you doing for sleep?
Oh, yeah.
What a myth and
I
a
mean,
recovery.
sleep, especially, college is tough because you're a student athlete and you got classes, you got big exams to study for. So I think time management becomes a huge thing
Huge.
in that environment.
Yep.
Planning your day around so that you can study in the time that you need to study, you can eat your meals when you need to, and you can get to bed at a good time.
Mhm.
Procrastinating is not a good idea.
Mm-mm.
It is
For
not a good
sure.
idea because you cannot perform at your best if you went to bed at
So
2
what
a.m.
so what happens when you're in the library and you're trying to do your homework and a cute guy comes up to you and starts taking your time? I mean, you're like technically not doing your work, but you got to make time for like, having conversation, right?
Sure, sure, of course.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Naturally, naturally.
Oh,
No, I mean the social side of you know your life in college especially is important.
You
You
have to
got to make
have
time
it.
for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have to have the mix.
but it's all a factor.
That's right.
so this is all great stuff. Let's kind of segue now from the jump going from playing collegiately to the professional ranks.
Hmm.
Obviously, with Orlando Pride right now in the National Women's Soccer League. What were the areas that you found most difficult? Was there anything that was seamless? I mean, for me, looking at things, I just think when you take the jump and now you're competing against players for positions that, this is their livelihood. This is your livelihood now. Trying to put food on
Hmm.
the table for your kids. So the stakes obviously really rise there. Just tell us your own personal experience here, and it'd be super interesting to hear more about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a jump. I think the pace of the game was the biggest thing.
Okay.
Faster tempo and just stronger, faster players as well. So I think that was the biggest thing that definitely took some getting used to on the front end. But at the same time, I really do believe that my environment at Penn State prepared me so well for this environment.
Mhm.
So while there was that natural adjustment period, I think I was able to get through that pretty well because of the skills that I learned while I was there.
Corey, what position did you play at Penn State?
I primarily played the sixth in the midfield,
Okay.
and then I played some center back my sophomore year out of necessity.
I was
Mm-hmm.
going to
We
say
had
center back.
a
Wow.
lot of injuries. Yeah, we had a lot of injuries, and I was like the fourth man up to play center back.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent half the season there and then went back to the midfield, for the next year. But I think my coach decided that she actually kind of liked me there. at center back. So flash forward to my 5th year, I ended up playing pretty much my entire season at center back.
And got
Um,
Defender of the Year in the Big 12, right?
Big
Big
Ten.
Ten.
Big 10. That's right. Big
Big
10. Sorry.
Ten. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Amazing.
And people have the misconception center backs, very tall, sturdy, right? Great in the air, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, if you look at the profile of you as a player, that's not the first thing they see. But my guess is you read the game so well, you're very smart, right? You're a
Mhm.
leader, you're a very good communicator. So that position, you found it fairly easy to adjust to. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I played the position a little differently maybe than others. And it suited the system that we played at Penn State. I
I
felt
wanna
like
know. I want to know. Sorry for cutting you off. That is so
no, you're
interesting to me because in my head, knowing you, coaching you, you could control the game. You could
mhm.
control much of the game at center back. Like I'm talking the entire game.
Yeah.
Like if you play the right way with your skill set. So go into that. I want people to understand how you played it a little differently. Talk about that's really
Yeah.
unique. Let's go.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it, but I felt like I was able to play make from that position
Yes.
like really well. And
Yep.
I think it was looking at it in that way and not just, a position where you're just kind of there to win tackles
Right.
and give the ball to the midfielders,
Right.
which is also great. That's
Got
great
you got
too.
to
Just
do
depends
that.
on,
You got to do
yeah, you
that,
got to
right?
do that. Just depends on what system you're in, but
Mhm.
I was able to be on the ball a
Mhm.
lot
Yeah.
and pick out passes. I think my coach really liked having me in that position because we were able to build out from the back
Mhm.
um, pretty seamlessly. I mean, I was fortunate to have some very incredible defenders around me as well that made it pretty easy on me.
Mhm.
But I think with the technical players that we had on the back line, we were able to play a really nice style of soccer
Yeah.
and dictate play from the back. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
I was able to do that, and it was really cool. And I didn't think I would fall in love with that position, but I did. Um, and I think for me too, it was also, yeah, I'm not the biggest defender, but 1v1 defending is a skill. And I think that's something that I developed under my coach at Penn State as well. She was an incredible defensive coach and really taught the skill of 1v1 defending.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's something that I was able to utilize at
Let's
that
let's let's
position as
talk
well.
let's touch on that, Chris. That 1v1 because we have a lot of young players that maybe they're technical but that they get into tactical environments. Can you just touch on like how you use angles, how you use your other players, how you communicate to become such a good defender? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll use my lingo that I used at Penn State to describe it. We had a little continuum for
There we
1v1
go.
defending.
Okay.
Um, So first thing was always finding your endpoint, which is like getting close enough to the player to affect the play, but not too close that they're able to just
Dribble
one
around.
touch it by you.
Yeah.
And then turning your feet so that if they do take a big touch, you're able to run and keep up with them. You're not just face forward, flat footed.
Okay.
Um, and then being ready to, when they take a touch, get your arm across so you can separate between the player and the ball. And just being light on your feet so you're not just hovering towards them,
Mhm.
but kind of weight more backwards
Mhm.
so that you're always like moving with the player and the ball and you're ready to like pounce when you need to.
Great.
Great, valuable tips for a younger player.
That's awesome.
That was awesome.
Mhm. Well, thanks for sharing that stuff at center back. I do have one little curiosity because I know the type of balls that you can flight in the air. Did you at Penn State have a lot of assists flighting the ball into your forwards?
Yes,
I knew it. I
I
knew it.
I took free kicks
Okay.
and corners as well. So that
Okay. So you
was,
got those two.
yeah. But I had a forward up top. I'll shout her out as well, Peyton Linehan,
Uh huh.
who plays for the Portland Thorns actually right now.
Okay.
And she was super fast, super skillful, but she loved to just like make that run from outside forward, darting across the back line.
Yeah,
And so I felt like I would always just look for her and just ping that
Let's
ball over the
go.
top.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And
That's
she would
awesome.
go and probably score because that was what she did.
That's so cool.
So I have a question for you, Cori. So basically, from Penn State, you played an interior position, a defensive
Hmm.
midfield position, and then you moved to center back, which is still centrally. Now at the
Hmm.
next level, you find yourself on the outside, right, as an
Hmm.
attacking wing back. What formation or system of play did you guys employ?
I mean, we play with a traditional four back.
Okay,
Um, but usually when we have the ball, we like to build in a three. So
okay,
there's some rotations that we would utilize
certainly.
there.
But oftentimes now you find yourself not in the middle of everything around you.
Hmm.
You're on the outside and whatnot. So what was that adjustment? Do you think your time as a central player or an interior player has helped you now that you're pushed wider on the field as far as the game itself? How has that helped you, or has it been a difficult transition?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it helped me a ton because I think I learned a lot of skills, especially playing as a midfielder in terms of being comfortable comfortable on the ball, under pressure a lot. And I think that sets you up for success no matter what position you're playing in.
Okay.
I agree.
And I think all of the technical foundation that I set through my entire career helped prepare me for that as well because as my coach here likes to say, at the end of the day, it's just soccer. It doesn't matter where you are in the field, the game's the same. Skills are the same. We don't need to overcomplicate it sometimes. So I think because, I trained holistically so much growing up, like that set me up for success as well. But I mean, it was still a transition. It wasn't seamless.
Right.
Um, it's still difficult, like there's certain things about being on the outside that are different than central and things that I'm still learning, that's an ever growing process. So I think there was a lot of film involved during that time, a lot of conversations with my coach, with, the players playing next to me, and just trying to soak up all the knowledge that I could. But I think I was prepared for it based off of everything that I did up until that point.
Cori, when you play at the professional level, are you in the attack a lot?
Uh, yes, it depends.
Okay.
Um, Not a ton because usually I am the one that's tucking in more
Okay.
when we rotate,
Mm-hmm.
but we rotate both ways as well.
Okay.
So I will still find myself up there.
Yeah, and I think that plays into what Chris was saying. You're comfortable coming into the middle. Like if you're slicing, let's say, across into the midfield, you're not like, oh, this is foreign territory for me. You're like, hey, I know where I am on the field and I can handle it. And then if you find yourself on the outside making the overlaps and serving balls in, well, you've always been great at that because earlier on in your career, you were doing that all the time. So it's kind of like the perfect position coming out of the back because you are so good on the ball. And Penn State groomed you so well to be a center back that can distribute and be a playmaker from the back. And I saw you at younger ages scoring tons of goals. So anywhere you go on the field, I would imagine you're pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be. It's a tribute to, everyone who's helped me up
Yeah,
until this
it's
point,
very
for
true.
sure.
Very true.
So, a question for you, Cori. Now you're at the professional level, and obviously that development hasn't stopped. You need to continue to get better, continue to push yourself, refine your game, learn more on and off the field. You talked about video. I would love to know what a day in the life of Cori Dyke is like at the Orlando Pride, what it entails, what your routine might look like, and just lay it out there. I think it'd be fascinating for the listeners to hear.
Sure. Yeah, well, we start early here in Florida because we need to beat the heat. So I wake up early. I wake up at 6:30 to get up, drive to the facility. We usually train at 9:30, but we have to get there at 8. So we'll do breakfast there, usually a morning meeting where we'll go over film, whether that's a review from the previous game or tactics for training that we're about to go into or scout for the team that we're playing in the upcoming week. Those
Right.
are things that we'll go over in video.
Right.
And then we train. We'll have usually another afternoon meeting with more video. So there's a theme here. We do a lot of video. Um, and we'll lift twice a week. We'll do a heavy lift earlier in the week, farther out from the game, and then more of a power based one closer to the game. And then treatment, and then I come home. But that treatment piece is really important. I mean, I'm in the training room every day doing recovery, getting what I need.
You know, just picking up on that, a lot of times young players might think, hey, I made it to the professional level. I've done it. I'm here, and it's kind of like I'll just stay there. But the reality is it's hard to get there, but it's even harder in many aspects to stay there because you've got more and more players trying to take that spot, right? So Chris talked about a word called refining your game a little bit. I mean, you're a pro right now, and for
hmm
you to stay sharp on your game, what are you doing to continue to stay sharp? We obviously know that the recovery is big. You're into that. You do it every day. But in terms of making sure your game from a technical standpoint, how are you refining your game, if at all, or how you do it just to be the best version you can be at the pro level or even get a little better? How are you doing it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're always looking to get better. And I certainly still am at this level. I feel like, that growth mindset, when you get so used to that, it just becomes a habit. I feel like that was just trained into me at Penn State, like that pursuit of excellence. There's always something that you can do more, that you can learn, and that's exciting. So I think being in this environment, I challenge myself every day to try new things. We do IDP sessions with our one of our coaches, which is individual development plan.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's still that growth happening even at this level. We'll meet with them, talk through certain areas that they want to see improvement in us, what we want to improve in as well, and then we can apply that in training. We'll have specific activities designed in each session to be able to work on stuff like that, which is great. And then I think outside of the training field, it's a lot of film as well. And having those conversations with the coaches, with your teammates, so you can grow in that side as well.
As on top of that, Corey, I'm real curious to know about in your situation there, or just in your development, when it comes to mentors. Were there any special mentors along the way to get you to where you are now? But maybe there's certain mentors on your team now that are helping you. You're a young pro, kind of help guide you, give you some valuable insight and information, to familiarize yourself more with the professional level. And with that
For
being
sure.
said, how important do you think the mentorship piece
Well,
is?
how do you find a mentor?
Yeah. I mean,
Let's start there because I don't think a lot of young players even know where to look.
yeah. I mean, at Penn State, we used the phrase like who you hitch your wagon to.
Okay.
And that becomes really important because where they go, you go. And I think you look for the qualities that are leading to excellence and that you admire. Like for me at Penn State, it was Sam Coffey and Carrie Bello. And Sam Coffey is now playing with the national team, and she's playing professionally with the Portland Thorns. And Carrie Bello is currently playing with me at the Orlando Pride, which is really awesome.
That's great.
So she was a mentor for me there at Penn State and continues to be now in the pro environment. But I think when I looked at them, like they were just so incredibly disciplined just within their own lives, the way they approach training, with that competitive fire, and just the attention to detail, day in and day out. I just really admired that. And I think I looked to them for a lot, leadership wise as well. They were incredible leaders, like always brought people with them. And now in my pro environment, I still have Carrie, which is great, but I have some super veteran leaders like Morgan Bryan. She's been incredible. for me, I think on and off the field. Someone to look to. She's got an awesome soccer brain, but she also just super strong faith that I admire, and she's helped me a lot with that off the field. And just bringing the younger players along, I think, is something she's done an incredible job of. And then you have people like Marta, who I don't even know how much I could say about that. She's incredible. It has been like the coolest experience of my life playing with her.
Like what are the things that are so crazy good or whatever, like experiences? Like you're on the field, obviously training with arguably the best female player in the world. What are the things that make her like incredible? You're like, oh, because you're a great player. I mean, you're a really good player, and to hear you talk like
Thanks.
that's a different level. Like, what are some of those crazy things that are just like, wow, can't believe it?
Yeah, I mean, she can do things on the ball that nobody else can do. It it amazes me. I feel like every practice something happens where we're all just like, oh my
Oh
gosh,
my
like
goodness.
full like all, grab your head
Yeah.
moments. Like,
That's so
Are
cool.
you
how did you just do
serious?
that?
That's
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
cool.
I don't know if you guys saw the clip from our semifinal against Kansas City last year. Um, but she scored this goal
Yeah, tell me
where
about it.
she just knifed through like three defenders. There's a freeze frame of her cutting the ball,
Hmm.
and two defenders are sliding the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And it's the coolest photo ever. Basically, just walked it in because she
Yeah.
just diced everyone up, and we all were like,
Yeah,
"There's no
that's
way we
so
just witnessed
cool.
this." It was incredible. It was incredible.
That's so cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I just a couple more things here is, you know, some of your, I guess you look back, some of your greatest accomplishments that you kind of rank, and some of those really fun things that you can kind of point to. If you got any of those, or if you just want to answer it the other way, some of your biggest challenges right now, that you've got. So just trying to put a general wrapper around it. I think the audience would love to hear about, some of your things that you think are just been awesome through the game for you. And then what you currently are having to struggle and big challenges that you always, and I know you take those things head on. So I know you'll
Hmm.
eventually climb those challenges, but just share with the audience a little bit about, things you really value in the game that's gone on, and then some of your current challenges.
Sure. I mean, I was really blessed to have a amazing college career, but it was difficult at times for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I think one of my biggest frustrations through the early years of college was the feeling that I wasn't getting the recognition that I maybe deserved. And then that led to, that inner dialogue of, wait, maybe do I not deserve it? Am I not as good as I think that I am?
Yeah.
And kind of how that process spirals. And I think through that middle part of college, I really struggled with that,
Hmm.
and like that need for external validation. And I think through that, what I realized is that like that isn't what's really important. Because by the time that I got those things, my last year there, I won a lot of stuff, which was cool. But I think I realized through that tough part that like that's not why I'm doing this. Like I'm not playing to win awards. That's not why I'm doing it.
Doesn't
I'm playing
define
because
you,
I
right?
love the game.
Right.
I'm playing because I love it. I'm playing because I, get to make these amazing, genuine friendships through this competitive environment that's
Yeah,
so
that's so
unique.
cool.
And I think that's something I've tried to carry with me, in this pro environment that is extremely high stress, high pressure.
Hmm.
'Cause at the end of the day, like I'm not playing for the success. I'm
Hmm.
playing for the love of the game that I've had my whole life. And sometimes, you can lose sight of that, but I always try to reframe my mindset on that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, last year we won the championship, we won the Shield. That was pretty awesome.
Hmm.
I will absolutely say that that's been the highlight of my soccer career, and it was incredible.
Hmm.
But you will hear a lot of us say that it would not have been as special if we didn't like have the bond that we did as teammates.
Hmm.
Like I think
Right.
our bond as teammates with this group is really unique in this pro environment. because sometimes that's not always the case, but we like had such a strong
Hmm.
culture. So when we did win, it was incredible, and getting to celebrate with each other like made it all the sweeter.
And to do all that in your debut season as a rookie, that's crazy. So the
Hmm.
standard's
Yeah,
set now. There's no going back. You got to
I
continue
know.
to
It
repeat and
was it,
repeat.
it was crazy. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to do it again.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
absolutely. So for me, Corey, a parting question: what can you tell those younger aspiring soccer players? What tidbits, what super valuable pieces of information do you have for them that might help them or allow them to better achieve their goals?
Yeah, I mean, biggest things for me is one, that growth mindset, like just always being open to learning, wanting to learn, to grow your game, getting on the ball as much as you can. That's how you're really going to make improvements. And don't shy away from that. Like failure is a part of that. It's
Right.
not just an upward slope. So embrace those challenges and learn from it. And then at the end of the day, like just keep the joy. Like what are you doing if you're not enjoying it,
Right.
like so always remember kind of why you started playing, and
Yeah.
enjoy the hard times, enjoy the good times, because it shapes you into who you are and the player
Yeah.
you are. So just, yeah, buy
And
into that.
and and you talked about this like inner voice, like things aren't going well and all that stuff, and like you at Penn State, you weren't getting these awards kind of your sophomore junior year. How did you master that self critic? That critic that goes inside, that little talking, chirping, kind of almost making you want to like think about, well, maybe I could quit. Maybe I just
Hmm.
should just quit the game because it's not. And I think so many kids have this like self-talk that's in there. How did you get around that? Because there's so many really good players, but they get inside their head and they can't get outside of their head so they can actually be that great player. How did you master that? Because you mentioned it a few times.
Totally. I mean, it wasn't easy, that's for sure, and that struggle is real. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly I struggled with it for a long time,
Right.
and it was touch and go.
Right.
I did a lot of work with um we had a sports psychologist there
Okay. Okay.
at Penn
Good.
State, and I did a lot of work with them, whether it was, on the field stuff
Yeah.
with, how I respond to making mistakes. And then we also would talk about, the big picture stuff, like I was telling you guys, of, like how do I even feel about playing right now?
Right.
Hmm.
Am I
Right.
am enjoying it? Like I feel like my confidence is low because of
Hmm.
all this stuff. We would talk through those things, and I think between those sessions and just the people that I had around me, like I
Hmm.
can't show enough gratitude for my support system,
Yeah.
truthfully,
Yeah.
because I think when my confidence was low and I was feeling down on myself, like they were there to pick me up
Hmm.
and instill confidence in me
Hmm.
and remind me, of who I am as a player, who I am as a person. And, they use the phrase a lot, like the cream always rises to the top with
Hmm.
these things. And so when it's hard and it continues to be hard and you don't know if it's going to work out, just trusting that the work that you've been doing like will pay off. It might not be on the timeline that you think it will, but it will.
I
And
totally
I think
agree.
just trusting in that.
I totally agree. And I can just say to all these young players, it's like, remember when you're trying to juggle a soccer ball for the first time and you pick it up with your hand, you kick it, and you're like, man, this is foreign. This isn't working. I don't get it. And you keep chipping away at it, right? Putting the little work in. And then all of a sudden you can get 5 juggles and your body's like, hey, I actually had a little bit of improvement here. I mean, I'm simplifying what you're saying here, but for the young
Hmm.
players out there was a struggle just to learn how to juggle a ball, right? And then all of a sudden it got a
For
little,
sure.
each little time you did that you were actually trying to progress to that struggle, you're actually digging yourself into that success, or I should say, promoting yourself into that success. And before you knew it, all those little things that you did to positive self talk, go back and try it again. I can do this. Those little 1% improvements, before you know it, they add up to a great thing. And you're out of whatever that struggle was. And you're like, actually, it's kind of easy now. But you could have gave up,
Hmm.
but you didn't give up,
Hmm.
right? And you don't necessarily see the progress when you're in the fire. But like you said, if
No.
you keep taking those steps forward What's the next thing you can do that can be a positive thing? Those little steps will actually step you out of the fire, and you'll be actually into the blue sky looking at the sun before you know it. So I
For sure.
100% agree with you.
Juggling the ball 150 times.
That's right.
Then 500, then 1,000.
That's
No,
right.
Yep.
That's
great.
right. Yeah. Well, this has been, Cori, this has been so
So
fun,
great,
man.
Cori.
So fun. Yeah. We wish
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much
yeah.
for having me. This was great. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're gonna help so many young players with all this guidance. I mean, it got real. You know, you talked about how you did it, and I mean, like you said, I mean, you got to put the work in. You love it, and it pays off. And you look at this, man. You have these incredible friends, and you know you're learning life too as you play this game. You know, like how to
Yep.
get through these struggles and what you have to do. So. It's been really my honor to have you. I love seeing you again. I haven't seen you on the field, at least with me, for years now. And
Yeah.
I love your journey. It's been so fun to watch, but it's been my honor to have you on this. So thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
Cori,
thank
you know,
you.
just to tack on to what Mike said, you know, it's been a pleasure having you, and it's really been a joy to, from afar, kind of track your progress and to see where you are today, and to continue to watch, you know, where you go, and just know that the two of us, we just had a little piece,
Yeah,
you know,
teeny,
along the way, and you
very
know,
small.
it
Yeah,
take it
no,
takes
you did, and
takes a
that
village,
all
right?
mattered.
And
So I appreciate you guys too for the role
we're
that you
we're
played.
super excited, and you know, best of luck this year, and continue to grow not only on the field but off the field, and we'll continue to track you. So,
All right.
Awesome. Well,
Okay.
thank you
thank you,
guys.
thanks, Cori.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Take care.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.